Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. I am so glad you're here and I'm so excited to share with you all of my paintings from 2022. The entire year, all in chronological order. So let's get started. Looking back on a whole year of work makes me feel proud. I committed to drawing and painting more, and now that I can see my entire body of work from the whole year, with plenty of bad pieces along the way, I'm really glad I stuck with what I told myself, and I went through each piece and used my Instagram, which I have linked here, to find when I made each painting, and now I have them all here to show you guys. So the first one was January 7th, and it was my first time breaking out my watercolors in the new year. I made one of my favorite hair illustrations to date, focusing on the highlights and shadows of the back of her hair, using really black and white grayscale kind of colors. Then in January 24th, I always try to pick my favorite outfit and illustrate it, and this year I illustrated this yellow dress from the Oscar de la Renta line. In January 30th, the row was another one of my favorite Oscar outfits, so I made a quick fashion illustration of this beautiful blue coat. And this is also a piece that I'd like to revisit again to see how I can improve it. On February 3rd, this was a fun, quick sketch and painting of Burberry. I really love the orange suit and skirt set, so I did a quick little illustration of that one. On February 7th, although I did not paint these fashion illustrations this year, I did get to use this piece as well as 3 others that were selected to actually go in an installation in the museum lab of the Pittsburgh Children's Museum, which was such an honor, such a cool thing to be able to do. I was unfortunately not able to see the exhibit, but knowing that they were there really warmed my heart. And to think of all the activities that children got to do being inspired by my art was a really cool feeling. Now I have my 2 watercolor sketchbooks. 2 of these pages actually fell apart from my sketchbook. They aren't sketchbooks. And I love the dresses and the stylistic approach of them. So I have this one here, this first one, and she has some really cool hair and this really billowy dress. And then the second one is also really fun. It's this green dress. And I just really liked how flowy it was. Then on February 22nd, this was a very quick painting, more of a sketch painting than a painting, I'd say. So I went to see Death on the Nile with my husband and was in awe of the character that Emma Stone played, loved her makeup, her hair in the whole movie, so I had to paint her immediately upon returning home. And I painted it on top of this cardboard backing piece that I would use when I would place a piece between a mat board frame and have it have a back. And I had a bunch of extra, so I figured why not just try to watercolor on it, but I really wouldn't recommend doing it again. I'm not going to try doing it again, simply because the materials started to peel off as I was painting on it, which added a lot of unwanted texture and made the paper ball up and kind of get stuck all under my paint and made her skin look kind of weird. Next up, we have February 24th, and these are mini fashion illustrations that I created of myself. I was inspired by different outfits that I had recently purchased from Zara and decided to make a reel with those outfits, and then illustrations from my photos I took of myself in the outfits. On March 3rd, Matilda DeJerf posted this cool photo. Made a fun reel, and I love the colors in her outfits, but would probably go back in and darken some of the areas to add some more depth, a little bit more dimension. This was also a really quick sketch. On March 10th, I did this blonde face illustration, and it's probably the most detailed I had ever explored with watercolor portraits. And I typically use mixed media and fashion illustrations, but this one challenged me with skin tone when I was just using watercolor and not using any ink, and especially because of the fact that I didn't want any of the black in her eyes to bleed into her face, and I was really proud of how it turned out. On March 16th, this tiny peony painting was one of the paintings that actually first sparked the idea of me creating a floral print collection, which I ended up doing a little later. Then on March 17th, like right here, I experimented so much with paintings when it was a slow season with my job. I sat at my kitchen table, my desk, or the living room floor daily and just got out all of my ideas on paper, pulled out my watercolors, my cup of water, my paintbrushes, and just went for it, making as many flowers as I could. And I later learned that this was part of my planning process for this whole series. On April 4th, this was my favorite Grammy Award outfit, and it was of Allison Russell, and she ended up seeing it in a reel I made, and she commented on it, which was so cool. I loved her dress, and it just looked like a work of art, so I had to create it. And this was also on that cardboard, the same kind I used from the Emma Stone portrait, but somehow I didn't run into the same issue, so I kept it, I shared it, and I loved it. On April 15th, this was the day I ended my personal 30 days of drawing sunflowers, which were all sketches, so I'm not going to show you guys those. Maybe I'll do it in a later video. But then I decided to do an entire painting in one day, this painting of all these sunflowers. On April 19th, that was the day that I announced my peony collection. So here were some of the final pieces I edited and turned into prints. June 14th, this was another cool face I did. This girl is very moody. Her hair is all wet. She looks like she just got out of the shower. It was probably stylized for the photo shoot from my reference picture, and I loved the eyes staring back at me and painting all of her hair, and it was just a really fun thing to experiment with watercolor. I just love how eyes look with watercolor, and that ability to really make it look like makeup is running down someone's face, because watercolor paint will do that very easily. On June 16th, I made a sunflower painting from start to finish with gouache. I completed this in about an hour after being inspired by another YouTuber I watched, Sarah Faber. Her videos where she was experimenting with gouache, and she did a whole painting in a day, so I decided to try my sunflowers. This isn't high quality gouache, but I was actually impressed because I have noticed, this is a thought I have had as an artist, and I've discussed it a lot with my husband, that even when you're using mediocre supplies, as you get better at art, it really doesn't hinder the beauty of your work as much as you think it would. Yes, you can tell a difference if you're a well-adapted artist from if you're using Crayola crayons or Prismacolor pencils, but if you already have the skill, basic art supplies can't really hinder your skill that much because you know how to work with it. On June 17th, this was a portrait with my favorite vitamin C serum I use daily on my face, so I loved how this one turned out. Self-portraits are actually really strange for me. I don't know if you're an artist and you can agree, it just feels weird to draw myself. But I snapped a few photos of myself, had a little photo shoot, picked out the best one, and I just kept working at replicating my face as realistically as possible. On June 18th, I entitled this Ocean Blue portrait, which was an experimentation with the color blue, and I decided to try this portrait by only doing it in one color. That helps me a lot when trying to differentiate the lights and darks and the values in a painting, so I decided to just stick with one color to get more practice in that, and I really enjoyed the whole process and love the result. On June 21st, I started an abstract oceans collection that was honestly just a personal project. It was really just to get out a lot of feelings I had and some stuff I was going through at the time. And I kept telling myself I'm not selling this. And then being the person I am, when I was finishing it, I didn't realize it was going to be an oceans collection. I thought, why not? Why not just put it up for sale? The worst that can happen is no one buys it. And so the worst did happen. No one bought any of it, but that doesn't mean no one will in the future. So I will put them on my website. But it brought me a lot of joy creating this, and it was really fun experimenting with abstract art. July 3rd, I did my Mary Lawless Lee fashion illustration. Loved this, was obsessed with her outfit and all the patterns. On July 7th, Blair Addie B, another Instagrammer fashion icon, she wore the most perfect dress for artists. It's a color swatch dress, and I had to paint it because it literally looked like a Winsor Newton watercolor palette. On August 2nd, I did these little pinstriped outfits. I had this little idea of color blue. It was the summer. I can sense a theme here. Do you sense a theme here? I have been painting all blue in the summer. But I love this outfit I saw on Instagram, and then I replicated the idea by drawing a line of fashion illustrations with little figures. Now, on August 8th, here you can see, on the 8th here was some fun practice from my watercolor sketchbook where I did tiny face studies. Really enjoyed that. I'm really enjoying drawing faces on a smaller scale, and it gave me the thought that when I learned some tips for drawing faces in art school, I feel like no one really talks about starting small, and that would be a really good idea if you are learning or teaching yourself, and I'd actually like to make some more videos in the future on that. Starting small. It is a lot easier to learn the proportions of a face when you start smaller than when you're starting larger, because there's just more surface area you have to deal with, and it's a lot easier to erase when you have something on a smaller scale. But I really liked these. On August 12th, I did a very fun fashion illustration where she just went to the grocery store, has a grocery bag full of flowers. I was experimenting with this stance I had in my mind, and it was just really fun accentuating that pose. And who doesn't love a grocery bag full of flowers? Who needs groceries? We can just eat flowers, right? On August 21st, I did fashion illustrations with 4 dresses. I thought these came out really well because I decided to add some floral illustrations mixed in as well. Now, welcome to my living room. So I made a watercolor illustration of me and my husband's wedding day with our daughter, and I ended up redoing it. So you're not seeing the original one because I made my face look very scary. I added too much ink. It was a disaster. This is the final one, and I have it on our wall because I love it. And I had leftover paint from painting my daughter's room, and so I decided to just pour certain amounts of paint on this flat backing cardboard that didn't work for watercolor but is great for acrylic, I have learned, or typical wall paint. These are just samples I had bought from Amazon. On August 30th, these tiny illustrations became a real tutorial, but I would love to do some more videos on creating mini fashion illustrations. I really liked the print on their pants, and it was just fun to get out a bunch of ideas in a small scale. On September 12th through September 15th, I did a lot of New York Fashion Week illustrations just because I love New York Fashion Week. October, I did the October Florals Challenge, also known as Arttober Florals, that one of my favorite realistic watercolor artists on Instagram does. Her handle is Shailene Louise, and I followed her outline and I painted one each day. Was so proud of myself for committing to that and doing it every day. Oh, I love challenges because when you look back, when you show up, even when you don't want to, which I did not want to every day. I was tired when I would come home from work, and I did not want to paint a flower sometimes, but I did it. And I'm very proud of myself, and I noticed ones I liked and ones I didn't, and how my flower painting improved over the course of 30 days. This last one was me trying to find comic relief in the middle of being sick, while also trying to state all the fun things my true love gave to me. Turns out he gave me the most gifts on day 12 when I was sick. On December 13th, I got this itch to paint a red car with a Christmas tree on top of it in the middle of a grove of pine trees after seeing this charming little tree on top somewhere in England in a reel on Instagram. And I never finished this painting, but I really liked the start of it. Now, this last one, before celebrating the new year, actually not even on paper, I painted this toucan in my daughter's room. Love it so much. I am not a bird painter. My mom, though, is very good at drawing birds, so I wonder if I just inherited that without practicing. Well, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you would like to see more videos, please like and subscribe. And as always, comment below for more videos you'd like to see. I hope you have the best day.